when I started decluttering, I worked and worked and decluttered, and I just wasn't getting anywhere. Several years later, I finally know why I kept failing. If I knew then what I know now, I think I could have gotten to this point like 10 times faster. So did you know that decluttering is not just an action, but it's a skill as well? So hear me out. There's this Swedish psychologist, his name was Anders Ericsson, and he did a study about violin players and what makes someone a master violin player. And basically, through all this research, they found that it just takes 10,000 hours of practice to become a master violin player. Then they found that not only does that 10,000 hours, is it true for violin players, but it's actually true for like any skill that we want to learn. So like violin is a skill, but so is snowboarding, but so is studying, so is tidying, and so is decluttering. So basically, whatever you're not good at, that's a skill. Some amount of time and effort and energy working on it will actually make you better. Except what about the people who are like naturally great at violin versus the people who naturally kind of stink at violin? Turns out that you reach 10,000 hours and they're all the same. The amount that they are different, it disappears because the hours put into the effort of learning the skill overtakes that natural ability. There's not a discernible difference by the time they reach that master level. Knowing that, I thought, well, wait a minute. This means that I'm just bad at decluttering. Like, it doesn't mean that it's impossible for me. I've failed over and over again, but I don't need to keep failing. This is a skill and I can actually learn the skill and I can become pretty good at it. And it probably won't take 10,000 hours, right? Because decluttering isn't the same type of mastery as a violin player. I mean, I bet Marie Kondo, I bet she has 10,000 hours of practice and she's a master. And Peter Walsh and the other decluttering gurus, I bet they actually have that 10,000 hours. But I don't even need to be a master or a guru. I just need to be good enough to get through my house and get it decluttered and simplified enough that it is comfortable for me to live in. And so once I learned this, that was like a big relief because I was thinking that I was just like a failure, and I was a failure, but I didn't think that I could do anything about it. I thought that I was just, well, sorry, I guess I'm bad at decluttering, and so I'm just gonna live in a cluttered house. Well, no, it turns out that I just needed to try. So unfortunately, when I began decluttering, I would set aside a whole day, like a Saturday, and I'd be like, okay, I am going to declutter this Saturday. I'm gonna spend all day in my house. It's gonna look amazing. And Saturday would come, and I'd go into a room, and I'd pull everything out of the room, and I'd start to look at the things, and I'd go through the things, and then I'd get distracted, and then something would be hard, and then I would move some stuff around, and I'd put some stuff in other rooms, and then the end of the day would come, and I would feel so frustrated because I just hadn't made the progress that I thought that I should make. And of course I hadn't. I stunk at decluttering and I didn't have the skill yet. So here's what I wish that I had done. I wish that I had learned the decluttering skill the same way as all of us learn other skills. Like, we don't learn violin by picking up a violin and practicing for 10 hours and then being frustrated and saying, I'm never playing violin again, and going 3 or 4 weeks and then saying, well, I guess I'll try violin again. And you pick it up and you play another 10 hours. Like, nobody becomes good at anything that way. Same thing with exercise. Like, we can't just we can't just run a marathon. We have to work in little tiny increments. And so had I done my decluttering journey by starting out with these little tiny increments, I think that I would have gotten really far really fast instead of doing a day and then going a month and then doing a day and then going a month and so on and so forth. I went several years of making almost no progress for this reason. Instead, if I had set a calendar reminder or an alarm for every day to do 10 minutes of decluttering and just if I wanted to do more, I could do more. And if I didn't, then I could have just, be happy with my 10 minutes. Then I would have built up that little bit of a skill and that little bit of a muscle, because decluttering is like we have to make that decision again and again, and making those decisions is hard. But when we practice it a little bit every day, then we get good at making those decisions, and we make them faster, and it's less painful every time we let something go, and we don't get worn down by this decision fatigue. So in the beginning, I would do this marathon and then nothing, and then a marathon and then nothing, and I wish that I had just done a little bite-sized amount every single day. If you're interested in doing this, I have some tips, because I didn't know, when I did start to do things this way, I didn't know where to start. And I tried a few different things, and so I'm just gonna rattle off a few things, and maybe one of them will work for you or resonate with you. And I would just pick whatever tip seems easiest. Like whatever I say that you're like, oh, I could probably do that, then do that thing. Like jump on whatever feels easy. Don't make it harder than you have to. My first idea is to take a bag, like a trash bag, and walk around and just throw away anything in your house. You don't have to stick to one room. You can walk all over. I did a video a couple weeks ago where I did this, and I started in the medicine cabinet. I was really overwhelmed and having a lot of clutter anxiety at that moment. And the video shows it. But it was a good way for me to get the ball rolling after I had kind of gotten stagnant after a while. Like I hadn't been decluttering regularly. Things were piling up. I was feeling stress. And it was a great way for me to get started at that time. Another thing that you can do is just choose one small area, like one junk drawer, one countertop space. It doesn't have to be like all your kitchen counters. It could be one corner, one coffee table, whatever seems doable to you right now, then I would choose that one thing. A couple other options are to just go walk out your front door and walk back in. And when you walk in, just look around try and view yourself as a guest in your home. Like if you're walking in and this is someone else's house, what's the first thing that strikes you as out of place? And then maybe address that thing. And then my fourth tip is to take a picture. Like a lot of people have recommended this, and I did try it once, and it was telling. I took a picture of my office, and I tried to take it from the doorway back so that I could get a big, I could see a lot of it, or see a corner where it was really messy. And when I looked at the picture, and I was just looking at it on my phone, for some reason it was so much more clear to me what a disaster it was and what should be there and shouldn't be there. So that might be helpful to you. And if none of those work, then I would just try for whatever seems easy. So what I've done in the past is, actually when I was starting my decluttering journey, one of the first things I did was my clothes. I don't know why my clothes seemed easy to me. For some people, clothes are a real hang up. For me, it seemed easy because no one else cared what I did with my clothes. I was so worried about my family and getting rid of something that they might want or need, or accidentally decluttering something that wasn't mine. I knew my clothes were mine and that I could do whatever I wanted with them with no repercussion from any other person. So I started with my clothes, and I had a lot of success by doing that. So if you can think of one thing, whether it's pots and pans or clothes or shoes, or if it's knickknacks or linens and blankets and towels, whatever seems to you I could probably do that and it's not gonna stress me out too much, I would start there. I would take the easy win and do that for the day, and then worry about the next thing tomorrow, and try as hard as you can to do a few minutes. It doesn't even have to be 5 minutes a day. If you really want to accelerate it, I wouldn't do 20 or 30 minutes. I would do 10 minutes 2 times a day, because you're going to exhaust yourself with those decisions. And by splitting it up into 2 different time frames, you'll start fresh each time. And boy, will you really make a lot of progress at that point. So if you decide to do this, would you please, it would be so cool if you tell me in the comments, what did you decide to do? Did you set a timer? Did you set an alarm so that you have a time every day that you're gonna declutter? Do you know where you're gonna start? It would be so cool if you'd share that with me. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. I hope that if you've ever felt like a failure in decluttering, that this helps you to not feel like a failure. You're not a failure. I'm not a failure. I was running on a hairline's worth of talent, and instead of the abundance of talent that some people have. So if you similarly don't have a talent for it, you can still do it, and I'm doing it too. My house isn't simplified yet. Some spaces are and some spaces aren't, but we're in it together. So thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next week.